talked about a little bit through each of the panels, but it is something that I think we as a group and in general, we're probably the least informed about at this point and the consequences of all of it. So it is really good that we end the day discussing this, and for that, we have an amazing panel again lined up, and for moderating it, we do have Arundati, who will be able to bring in the rest of the panel on stage as well.
So we have a great panel, and I'd like to call them all up here. We have Geetha from Gramalaya. So Geetha, if you could come up. Geetha, Gramalaya, as you know, has been working in the south on water sanitation and hygiene for a number of years. And Geetha has a rich experience spanning close to 20 years in working on this. I'd also like to call upon Richa Chaturvedi from Chintan. And Richa is a lawyer, and she has she also now works with Chintan with their Voices to Waste program, and has a really in-depth understanding of the waste management legal landscape, and also the implications this has for waste pickers. We have Swati Bedekar from Vatsalya Foundation in Baroda, and Swati wears many, many hats, both as a development professional and also as an entrepreneur, a scientist. And she is going to talk here about a fantastic innovation that she has about matka incinerators, mud incinerators. So we're going to hear more about her. We have Dr. Shyamala from the National Institute for Urban Affairs, and she has been instrumental in working and drafting the solid waste management rules, plastic waste rules, as well as biomedical waste rules, and she'll be bringing that perspective to the table. And we have Nalini Shekhar from Hasiru in Bangalore. And Nalini and her organization have been spearheading Bangalore's work on waste management, and she has also been a very passionate advocate for the voice of waste pickers, not only in Bangalore city, but in Pune and across the country. And we have Myles Ellege from RTI International, who has a passion for environmental health and is active in technology innovations, and that's apparent in a new technology that he's leading on, both for toilets as well as waste to energy technology for incinerators. So we're going to have a really interesting discussion. But before that, we're going to go back to our live polling questions, because we have a last set that's going to be looking at waste management. So if we could get that. Okay. So our first question is: access to disposal options affects how hygienically girls and women are using products. Great. So second question. Menstrual waste should be segregated from other general waste for disposal and treatment.
I as well agree. It's
Wow. So Dr. Shyamala just made a comment that you all should agree because it's a part of the rules. But it's good to know that 21% think otherwise, so we'll get more into that. Okay, the third question, the last one. Okay, so just looking at some of the research priorities, and again, this will help us both with forwarding the research agenda as well as the advocacy agenda for this issue. So please do go through some of these choices and let us know which one you think we should focus on. Oh, wow.
expected this one-third.
Okay, so very interesting. So you've given us a lot to think about as we move forward. Thank you for your responses. So coming to this panel, throughout the day, we've actually heard several people refer to disposal in the panel discussions. And what we'd like to do here is actually look at both disposal as well as treatment of menstrual waste. And the reason that we're concerning ourselves more and more with this issue is, as the previous panel pointed out, girls and women do have greater access to disposable products. And one number that we're kind of playing with is about 121 million girls and women in the country may be using disposable sanitary pads. Now, why are we concerned about this? This is definitely, a good move in the right direction, that we're using safe absorbents, but we have rights to be concerned for two main reasons. One is when girls and women, when we lack access to adequate disposal, we also find that girls and women are likely to use those products in an unsafe way. So for example, using a pad for more than 12 hours. And the second is when we are disposing these pads, then there's a growing volume of waste. So if we go back that 121 million girls and women are using sanitary pads, then we're looking about 1 billion sanitary pads that are being disposed of every month. Now, because of this issue, we really have to think about how access to products and use of products should be combined with how best and how safely we can dispose of that product. Safety both for those of us who are using these products as well as the environment around us. And that's what we'll dig a little deeper into today. So the panel here, we have people who are been working on two broad issues. One is incinerators, and looking at and why incinerators are increasingly becoming popular, and how incinerators can actually be a safer and perhaps even a resource generating technology. And we also have people here who are going to be talking about solid waste interventions and how we can look at those moving forward, and shedding some light to some new technologies such as deep composting. So I'm going to start off actually with Geetha from Gramalaya to give us a little bit of context. Now, given Gramalaya's work in the south, both in urban as well as in rural areas, can you give us a sense, Geetha, about how girls and women are throwing away their used absorbents, whether it's sanitary pads or cloth? So just to give us a sense of what's happening currently and some of the challenges that both communities are facing and you as an organization is facing in dealing with this issue.
Yeah. Thank you, Arundati, for giving the opportunity to Gramalaya. So actually, Gramalaya is working in 5 southern states in India. So we are working mostly in menstrual hygiene management program with adolescent girls and rural women. So actually, we are forming a health club at school level and the women health club at rural village level. So there are more issues we are facing because we are touching that menstrual hygiene management program only for the last 2 years. So before that we are focusing on 5 sectors. One is water and toilets, then menstrual hygiene, hand washing, and then nutrition. So these 5 sectors Gramalaya is focusing. So our one is the main focus on menstrual hygiene management. So we are educating the women and adolescent girls at the school level and village level. And there are the issues we face in the village level because it's a taboo subject, as you know. So from the morning everybody told. And the other thing is the disposing thing. So the production is more, the producers are more, but what is the disposal system? It's a very minimum number of disposal system is there. So initially actually we were educated the women and adolescent girls were using the sanitary napkins. So it's disposing at the mud pots. It's a mud pot using everywhere in the rural villages. So it's a small pot. So they put in the used sanitary napkins and for burning. So it's for off mouth, it is closed. So then use a mask, then burning. So that is only. So far away for after burning, so you can go far away. So that is the education we given to the rural women in the initially. And other thing is some buried in the pit. So alternative option we give now. Currently Gramalaya is constructing the smart toilet. So with a good facility of bathing and brushing, washing, defecating and hand washing with the incinerator facilities. So it's a manual incinerator. So it's a very cheapest cost. It is attached to the toilet, attached bathroom. So that is for incinerator facility in every houses. We are constructing the small toilets with the incinerator facility. So now it is a time, so they very feel, actually we are motivating them to construct toilet only, but all people now they required please construct the toilet with incinerator, so we will pay the additional cost. So that awareness created among the community level, that manual incinerators. In electrical incinerators also we initiated them at the school level, but what we were facing some of the operation and maintenance problems. If one service needed, that person, sales is the most focus, so service is not the frequent thing. So that is also the problem at the level. In the electrical incinerator we faced that type of challenges. In urban in rural areas they are throwing the napkins in open streets and the bushes, so it is very environment pollution, and also the people are fighting with them. So you are throwing the napkin to my household nearby, so that is a more fightings and or there in the rural villages. And also in they are put in the menstrual cloths in the hidden places, so it may attract insects, so that type of deaths also we faced in that our field areas. So that is also we faced in the rural areas. And in urban context it may be different, because in slum communities there is a 10 by 10 households, there is no space for privacy to change the sanitary napkin or washing the napkin. So that is also the problem. So they are using the community toilets. In the community toilets there is no incinerator before that. So we are actually in Gramalaya is motivating the self-help group to manage the community toilet in Trichy city. So our Women Federation taken the initiative last year. So they approached Trichy City Corporation, so to construct the incinerator in all community toilets in one block. So they replaced as a menstrual hygiene toilet. It's like menstrual, it's a incinerator facility toilet. So now the community people, the slum community people are using that block for changing the pads and disposing the pads. But initially in the 3 years back, they put one cemented tub, so put the sanitary napkin and the cleaner, the toilet cleaner, so they burned the sanitary napkin, but it was harmful. So now it is a corporation, the Trichy City Corporation initiated, and there are 369 community toilets in Trichy City. So out of 369, 170 toilets are having with the incinerator facility now, because of our Women Federation taken that issue and done good effort on that part. And the other thing is in urban areas mostly they put the napkins in the wall and window, and even they are throwing in the toilet in the other boundary. So the caretaker, so they are the people are coming, the men are coming and fighting with the caretaker. So why you are the in charge to take the napkins and other things. Even he doesn't pay for the community toilet fees and also. So that is the problem we were facing in. Now it is moved. And the other thing is every day a woman average 150 non-biodegradable waste throw in the open areas. Actually in urban slum areas also the women are disposing in the dustbins. So the garbage collector come and collected the waste along with the household waste, then after segregation at the dumping yard. So that the waste pickers are segregated at the dumping yard. So maybe it is buried in the landfill site. So in the landfill site maybe it is a non-biodegradable waste, maybe above 800 years it will take to compose the pad, because 90% of the sanitary napkins are plastic. It is a polypropylene material on the top layer in the napkin. So that it is a very disposal system, it's very challenged to, and the urban areas, it's in the dumping yard. It's a segregation at the household, it is good. So recently launched one of the solid waste management program in Trichy. Our commissioner said, so even every Wednesday they are collecting the menstrual waste separately from the household. So this initiative taken by our city sanitation task force meeting in Trichy. So that type of efforts we are doing more, and also we are educating the women to using girls using the game. it's a fun game like that, and snack and ladder game, and other hygiene game. So and other thing is, this is a cord also we are using. So some more IEC material we displayed in that one. So and other thing is, currently we are launching the reusable cloth pad, which is designed and researched by our founder director Mr. Damodaran. So this is a pad which is a cost is very cheaper, washable, reusable. It's a five pads are 250 rupees. So it's a cotton jersey cloth we are using that. We are using the women self-help group for making these pads, and then sterilization is also done by them. So that type of initiative we are taking by Gramalaya for the disposing of the menstrual. It will take it will use up to 1 year period. So the more efforts we are taking on the menstrual hygiene part and then disposal part, and still we are facing the more challenges for the providing the education to the higher secondary school. It's a co-ed school. Maybe we avoid the boys, so to go to other class, so we will educate the girls school. So they are asking. So that is the difficult also we are facing in that. And also we constructed around 14 girl-friendly school toilet complexes with incinerator facility and washing facility. So everything in that toilet complex for girls, adolescent girls. So that is also boys needed. So why we need also that type of toilet, good toilet facility, even that in government schools. So that type of infrastructure is also the good support for the disposal systems.
Thank you, Geetha. I think you have touched upon a couple of things that we are definitely going to come back to, which is about incinerators and solid waste and some of the challenges that we're faced with even while we are scaling up these kinds of interventions. So I want to go to Richa now. And Richa, you're a lawyer and you work with Chintan, and you're very familiar with the legal landscape. So it would be good again just to set some context if you could talk us through this legal landscape of waste management. What are we looking at? Is this solid waste? Is it plastic waste? Is it biomedical waste? And what are some of the complexities and implications of placing menstrual hygiene waste in any of these or all three categories?
So I guess most of us are here aware that the revised solid waste, plastic waste and biomedical waste rules came last year in 2016. So of course the government was pretty much aware and clear about what the nuances of sanitary waste is. And being aware, they placed it very clearly under the solid waste management rules. So as far as the law existing is concerned, there is no confusion that sanitary waste falls under the category of solid waste, under the solid waste management rules. Now, there are certain duties and responsibilities which have been laid out, and of course we know that sanitary waste consists of tampons, condoms, incontinence, sheets, everything. But that, having said that, there are duties for the waste generators, there are duties for the urban local bodies, there are duties for manufacturers under the solid waste rules itself. So as far as the duties of waste generators like us, the users, are concerned, they're basically supposed to wrap it securely in a pouch which is provided by the manufacturers and producers and place it in a bin which is meant for non-biodegradable waste. Now, the definition of sanitary waste under the solid waste rules provides the categories. It does not mention specifically whether a non-biodegradable or a biodegradable waste would be considered a sanitary waste.
Right.
So it's open there. Now, but as far as the disposal part is concerned, they've said that it has to go in the bin meant for the non-biodegradable waste.
So the segregation.
So the segregation bit has been taken care of. The second responsibility is to wrap it securely and give it to a person authorized to collect that waste. So basically then you're not supposed to throw it out, litter it in the open. The responsibilities of the urban local bodies are about creating awareness around this waste. So at two levels. One is creating awareness about segregating this waste. So basically you have to segregate your waste into dry, wet, not biodegradable and sanitary, domestic hazardous waste and sanitary. So they keep it away from domestic hazardous waste also. And when they define domestic hazardous waste under the solid waste rules, they do not mention sanitary waste there. So that's a very, very clear-cut distinction. As far as sanitary waste is concerned, they've kept it completely separate. Now, the second level of awareness that the ULBs have to do is that you have to wrap it into a pouch which has been provided by the manufacturers. The duties of the manufacturers have been provided that they have to provide that pouch, first of all, and they also have to create awareness around its disposal, and they also have to go for solutions which do not comprise of non-recyclable plastic products. So having said all this, the law as far as the solid waste management rules is concerned regarding the sanitary waste is pretty clear. As far as the plastic waste rules are concerned, they just talk about, I mean, that is when I'm moving on the assumption that we are trying to interpret the plastic and the biomedical waste rules a bit widely and trying to bring in the sanitary waste somewhere in there. So if we try to do that, just so that we can push for something in future, then under the plastic waste rules, the only area which we can touch upon is the duties of the manufacturers. And there we just talks about the multi-layered plastics. So do we consider sanitary waste as multi-layered plastics? I mean, I don't know yet. As far as the biomedical waste rules is concerned, it mostly talks about, they define biomedical waste as waste which is treated or after treatment or after diagnosis of human beings. Now, I really can't say that sanitary waste should be treated as a waste which is after the treatment or diagnosis of human beings. So again, I would not try to interpret it so liberally and so widely as to bring it there. Another thing which, solid waste rules, I would come back to that, another thing which they clearly say is, as far as incinerating technologies is concerned, they very clearly say that no chlorinated plastics or bleached plastics have to be burned. Now, when we talk about sanitary waste falling under solid waste, but not exactly a plastic waste, but we are burning it, we just talked about the product landscape. Do we have 90%, like each product comprising 90% of plastics, which we talk of? We have now so many products which claim that they are compostable, they are not, they are biodegradable, but yet the market is flooded with products which are non-recyclable and non-compostable. So when we go about, and of course burning is rampant, incinerating technologies are being pushed for sanitary waste all over the world. So are we going in violation of the law as it is existing in India? That is a very, very important question that we should ask. So this is the legal landscape as far as the three rules are concerned, and as far as the law exists, I would say again that it is extremely clear. But just defining the product or the kind of waste in a certain category is not solving the problem so far. Because the sanitary waste issue not just starts from its collection and segregation, but it goes to its transportation and disposal also.
And final treatment.
Yes, and find a treatment for itself. So who's going to collect that product? Are they coming across some diseases? Is it compromising on their dignity because it is not being wrapped securely, because the manufacturers are not pooling in their funds so that these things can be taken care of? And when it comes to disposal mechanisms, then we are doing deep burials, we are doing incineration, but is it really cost effective? Is it really environmental friendly?
So Richa, I mean, do the solid waste rules talk about final treatment? You know, are they, I mean, definitely they're talking about disposal, that you segregate, you securely wrap it, you segregate it, and they talk about the duties of municipal corporations, etc. But what about the final treatment? Do the rules say anything about this?
No,
so
I
in
don't
terms
think
of,
so.
It does.
Okay.
It says it should be considered as biomedical waste. It can be given to a common biomedical waste operator.
So yes,
To
so
a
this
common-
is where
yes,
there
but
are
they do not really put it under the biomedical
No,
waste.
no,
So
they
they
don't.
then don't talk about that. How should you wrap it? Who's going to collect it and bring it to that facility?
Right.
Which is a common biomedical waste facility. So I guess in Karnataka, the Karnataka State Pollution Control Board has now come up with a memorandum saying that yes, it will be brought there, but not in many other states have.
Right, and I think Nalini will talk more about that, but thank you for this. So maybe this is actually a nice segue for you, Nalini, to talk about what's happening in Bangalore City, because you have been definitely pushing for the segregation of waste at source, safe collection of that waste, and then even secondary segregation, and then also thinking about how that waste would be finally treated. But what's been interesting about Hasirullah's approach is that you've also always kept the perspective and the voices of waste pickers in this entire process. So can you tell us a little more about that?
I think finally people are worried about getting it out of your homes. What happens after is people don't bother. But for us, actually speaking, what kind of sanitary napkin you are using, we are agnostic about it at this point of time, because we are looking at the safety of the workers who pick it up. But as a responsible environmental group, we are also worried about the products that are coming up which has no biodegradable ability. So having said that, in Bangalore when this discussion was happening, we really pushed. It was way before 2016 law came. We pushed for a separate stream. We collect dry waste that is non-biodegradable. Then we have a biodegradable waste, which is wet waste we call it, and then sanitary waste. So this sanitary waste is supposed to be kept separately, wrapped in a newspaper with a marking in red, and that goes to biomedical waste. And there has been back and forth in the court about it. As Richa was telling, there are laws are not very clear, but in Bangalore people were very creative how to use it. And so it is considered as biomedical waste. Actually, the court made a mistake of calling it hazardous waste. Yes. Hazardous, domestic hazardous waste. So there is a lot of challenges going on by big FMCG companies which are promoting the pads and saying that this is not hazardous waste. So we call it a reject waste in a simple term, and then right now it is collected in a segregated way in a non-chlorinated bags, and it is going to incinerator, which is biomedical waste is managed. That is what is happening. But it is not a full clean process yet. It is lot of debates are happening because it costs 24 rupees per kilo of sanitary waste to burn in a condition that is really good in the biomedical facility. So who is going to take this cost is a big question. Is it the consumer, is it the local body, or is it the FMCG? So because Bangalore has gone in a way that all the bulk generator, that is more than 50 houses if you have in your apartment, or you create more than 10 kilogram of your organic waste, those people have to manage their own waste. BBMP or the local government will not do anything about it. That is a segment which is really fighting hard and saying we are paying taxes, why should we pay that 24 rupees? So a lot of it is still going to landfill, but whereas where the government is collecting by itself, there are something called dry waste collection center, that is a center where all the non-biodegradable waste come. There they have made a receptor for sanitary waste. And now BBMP is also designing the vehicle where you have sanitary receptor, sanitary waste is collected every day, wet waste is collected every day, and that vehicle have a separate chamber to collect the sanitary waste. And the dry waste will be collected by waste pickers. This is the sanitary workers and that is waste pickers, so that there is a clear distinction. The question is, when it comes to big apartments, which is large, really, really large one, how can we make this cheaper? That is 24 rupees per kilo. So that is really hitting hard for everybody, and nobody is willing to pay that much money. People are willing to pay 200 rupees for a plate of pani puri, but they won't pay 100 rupees per month for managing the waste. That is the attitude people have. People think that waste can be thrown out, why should I pay? Now if throwing is not very easy in Bangalore, burning is not very easy in Bangalore, but still it's a huge city. We have reached only 50% of segregation. Even for a metro to reach 50% is very big, but still there's a long way to go. Plastic is banned, one-time use of plastic is banned in Karnataka. Karnataka is the first state to do it. So the waste is coming lesser there. So in the whole solid waste management system, there are a lot of changes are happening. That's why this segregated collection is happening. So you have to put the sanitary waste collection in the whole environment of solid waste management, especially the domestic waste management system. So that is what is happening in Bangalore, and it is really if you put it in an identifiable material or the bags, then it's easy for the workers. The workers don't have to go through to see what is there in it. But unfortunately, the national law says it has to go with a non-biodegradable waste. Then if it's non-biodegradable waste, that means you have plastic, paper, metal, everything that goes into it, where waste pickers pull out and there is sanitary napkin. But Bangalore has not gone back to the original, they're stuck to the original way of collecting the sanitary waste. Unfortunately, in Bangalore city, there is a whole lot of hoardings which say you have to do wet, dry and reject waste collection, segregation. But there's another set of hoarding of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. It says blue and green, 2 bins should be used. So there's a lot of confusion that has been created. But the city is very clear that they will not go back. It will be 3-way segregation, and it will be collected in the non-chlorinated bag. But the bulk generator, which is 40% of the city's waste generator, we still don't have an answer what happens. So much of those waste is still going to the landfill, but it is only a temporary phase. At least the policy is very clear and it will be soon implemented, I feel. But the cost is only when the sanitary pads that you use and throw, where if you can recover some kind of a cost in it, only then it is possible to address the cost issue. At this point of time, it is really bad, but it is very good for the workers. They don't have to touch. It is very clearly identified. So for us, that is important.
So Nalini, we know about what's happening in Bangalore. KKPKP and Swatch in Pune have tried this with the Red Dot campaign with the Pune Municipal Corporation. But is this happening in any other city that you know of? And
so in the whole of Karnataka, we are trying to push the same, and we have
rural as well.
We have tried in 3-4 rural areas. It is really good, and in some of the rural areas that we are working, the whole Gram Panchayat we are working. It's about 9 villages. We started with 1 village. We used to get only 5 kilograms of this waste every week. There are about 365 people in the small village. At least 100 of them are women. So it is too less. So that means that they were putting and hiding and throwing and the sanitary thing with clogging. We have a huge campaign that is going on in Bangalore. It is called a Green the Red campaign, where we are pushing for alternatives to mainstream pads and stuff. So we have taken gynecologists and activists from this field to do a lot of work with the women. So we are steadily seeing the increase of collection. And in one of the another thing I wanted to share is in one of the apartments where they used to spend 9,000 rupees per month to give it away to the sanitary, the biomedical guys, where we did a lot of campaigning around the menstrual cup. Now their bill has come down to 2,500. That means a lot of people in that complex have adopted. So if we are able to do that, but it will happen in certain income group only. So when we are talking about what is good, what is bad, we have to really look at what is the consumption pattern. Today the Goonj people were talking about a group where they don't even have cloth to wear, right? So we have to look at different kinds of strategies for different people.
Great, thank you, Nalini. I'm going to shift gears a little bit and turn to you, Swati. Swati, so you have designed the mud incinerator that's being widely used in Gujarat, in schools, in communities, and now also gaining in popularity in other states as well. So incinerator use at one level is increasingly popular, but you also have several people who are quite concerned about the use of incinerators. So I think you're in a very difficult spot. But so can you tell us why low cost and low tech incinerators like the one that you're making, why are they so popular?
Popular, I don't know, but useful, yes. See, I essentially work in rural landscape, and our way of working is more practical and what is doable in the section that with our target. It's a rural woman, low income group woman. We started with Murugan's model, and like Mr. Pratik or there was another gentleman, in similar way we made sanitary napkins with the women, improved design of Murugan's machine and more dignified napkins, contemporary. And our napkin is 85% cellulose based. The only part we have to use in our napkin is non-woven polypropylene fabric, which the option for it is very expensive, which we don't want to go for because our target group will not be able to afford it. Yeah. See, we taught them to use the napkins because that was a better solution than what they were using. We had a sustainable system of using cloth and washing it when we had a lot of cotton cloth and a lot of water. Now our state has 20 inches rainfall, so I mean very scarce water, particularly in areas of Kutch and hilly areas of which are towards Rajasthan side. So sustainable option was required, and suddenly women stopped using the sanitary napkins. They said, we like it, they are useful, but we won't use them because people in the village hate us, literally, because there was suddenly a lot of litter of sanitary napkins because women didn't know what to do with it. In cities also there is no way. I mean, I remember in my school there was a dustbin in the washroom, girls washroom, and with a sign, please do not put sanitary napkin. So what do girls do with it if they are not supposed to put it in the dustbin? Things haven't changed much. And so something like this had to be there. We asked women what do they do with their old rags when they stop using it. And we found out, yes, there is a way. Usually they, outside the house, they warm water on lakdi ka chula, and usually they put the old rags, not inside the house, they burn it outside that way. That's what they can afford. So this was another guideline for us. So we used terracotta clay and created a mud incinerator. The design ensured that there is a complete combustion and a low temperature combustion. The temperature generated is lower than the melting point of polypropylene or polyethylene. So it allows the mass, cellulose mass, to get burned. It is a very simple operation. Schoolgirls, women can do it in their privacy. So the women and the schoolgirls particularly who wish to use sanitary napkins, and besides our napkin was absolutely, I mean most part of it was made of cellulose. So wherever, in whichever state we went, we taught the new users of sanitary napkin to dispose it off in less than 24 hours, and yeah, in a decentralized manner. So where the waste is generated, madam just said the cost of collection and sending it to one point of incineration. So decentralized disposal is a necessity, I think. And I think the very fact that this is a major concern for many of the cities, small towns as well as villages where there is no proper garbage collection system also. Making a pet sounds little cumbersome because a young girl of 12-15 years old, during her difficult time, she is not going to really dig up a pit, and we have tried that. The third day you find it like, you know, again dug up by stray animals. So right now many states have tasted, piloted, and yeah, they seem that till we find something very, what do you say, authentic or something that doesn't create pollution at all. This seems to be a better option than kind of, allowing the litter to be generated.
So Swati, you've actually been very thoughtful about matching your product with your incinerator, because your products are 85% cellulose based and therefore they burn. But the plastic covering, that may not necessarily burn. I remember you saying that it chars and it remains and it can be discarded.
It remains and it has to be separated,
Right.
and it goes along with the other waste.
But as your model is, I know that there are other state governments, including MP now,
Yes,
that are considering your model. Now, there's no way that you can control the type of product that's disposed. And therefore, I mean, I think we'd like you to reflect a little bit upon this importance of matching the product with the disposal system at hand, because there are concerns about burning certain types of products, those with high, multi-layer plastics, super absorbent polymers, because they are releasing toxins and chlorinated, and the gels. So. And if we're having this in schools and homes, then it's releasing those toxins in close proximity to the very girls and women who are using them. So how are you, when you're talking to state governments, how are you trying to communicate this? That it's important to look at that product as well as incinerator, because we're looking at these two things in isolation very often.
Yes, I mean, at least we do introduce this thought that please check the product that you are giving to the girls or to the community, distributing in the community. Because what happens is, I think somebody mentioned, like there are huge imports are happening where you have no idea what is being used in them, and many of them are indeed made of plastic. They have a greater use of plastic. And in such case, no, but we do say that if you're using napkins which have plastic in them, it will not burn, because the burning is anyway, whether you do it in your house, in your compound, school compound, or outside, the plastic is not going to burn. But see, this one point, we really need to research upon that. Even at low temperature, you burn, some amount of plastic is going to be charred. So still there has to be a solution to that. So it goes with a proper instruction that in such case, if you are using a product which has plastic, then it's better that it is placed somewhere away from the where there are going to be girls or people roaming around. So that care we do take.
Okay, thank you. So, Dr. Mani, you have very strong views on incinerators and the burning of the array of menstrual absorbents, disposable menstrual absorbents. So, would you share some of your thoughts? And then moving on to some innovative solutions that you've been considering for menstrual waste.
I won't express very strong
please do.
But I would say that this entire thing is basically a work in progress. It looks like we haven't reached any place just as yet. Why I'm saying this is that I think Nalini also knows that when we started with solid waste, everybody thought that the only end of the pipeline solution was this one single incinerator, and if every city had one incinerator, and all problems will be solved. In Delhi we have 3, just to tell you, and nothing has happened. We are still
Is the problem solved? Is the problem solved?
No, that's exactly.
They're also dysfunctional, right? One of them is
no, dysfunctional in the sense that they're all in different stages of functioning. I mean, one is on and off, one has not reached its full capacity, one is trying to reach its full capacity. So obviously it means that it is bereft with certain challenges, and just like you said Geetha was saying about the electrical incinerators and things like that. So it's not as if one is against this technology or that technology. I mean, if we had found a complete solution, and if all these challenges were addressed, and if we were to completely address this whole issue, and it was only a question of pollution control, and with the amount of knowledge in engineering, and ultimately the government also puts in a whole lot of money into this. It's highly subsidized. So we could have addressed it. So it doesn't look like it's only a funds only problem. It's not just as if, I'm talking because NIUA is working quite closely with the Ministry of Urban Development. We are an institution under the Ministry of Urban Development. So if it was only a question of, how much of grant to give, I can tell you that each one of those incinerator plants that we have, waste to energy plants we have in Delhi, is over 400 or 500 crores. The total, this thing is 20 crore per megawatt is the capex. And its operational maintenance cost is 13 rupees per kilowatt hour per unit. And our power ministry has been able to recommend to the states only 7 rupee 90 paise per unit. So, where is the other 5 rupees going to come from? And I'm not saying this, this is out of research. We have gone and talked to the people who have actually bought the, a machinery, installed it, they're running it. I'm not just saying it out of because, I've done some secondary research or something like that. So, I mean, I'm only trying to put the whole, information in perspective. That's all. Even if the government is, does do a lot of subsidy for what is known as public good. I mean, like, suppose you have to have sewerage or sewage treatment plant or money for building toilets. You have to do it. I mean, this is something that the government has to do. But even after doing it, even after giving the subsidy, if it cannot run, then that's the whole question. But in the case of biomedical waste, we have found that the implementation of the rules has somehow turned out to be much better than any of the other rules. Probably because the hospitals and healthcare industry sees itself as an industry, and not as, because when you are talking about disposal, I just wanted to tell you that when we do primary research, when we send out our researchers in the field and ask general people about, segregation or about garbage and all that, when we use the word disposal, they seem to think that, as like she said, if it's out of their house or if it's inside a dustbin, that's disposal. How do you dispose your waste? We put it in the Dala, we put it in the garbage bin, that's it. If you ask them questions like, what do you know what happens from the Dala? We don't know. Municipality takes it. What does the municipality do? We don't know. Must be doing something. But nobody knows. I'm honestly telling you, and this is South Delhi. We are talking about surveys which we have done in South Delhi, which is supposed to be having a lot of educated people. So it's the question is that it looks like how now over a period of time, the Ministry of Urban Development or the Ministry of Environment has come to the conclusion that 50% of the solid waste is indeed wet waste, and it has to be segregated and composted. And Nalini knows that in Bangalore, I think 30 years ago we said this. Exactly 30 years ago, 1989 or 1990, I started the first community-based project in Bangalore. And this is exactly what we said. So it took 30 years, but what I mean to say is it will do that. It will take 30 years. There is no other go, because it is work in progress. People have to understand.
We have to start the conversation.
Yes. So biodegradability is okay. Like even for e-waste, I think Richa knows. I think the Ministry of Environment has been calling all the the e-waste manufacturers, e-waste, electronic manufacturers, talking about EPR. Plastics, I think we have called so many people, to the table and talked to them about EPR. The beginning they will say, oh madam, 30% is too much to achieve in the first year. Let's make it 10%. Then they'll say agree on 20%. This is how it goes. But ultimately, you reach there, you have to say that, look, we just don't have a choice. If we have to use, for menstrual hygiene's sake, we have to use good material so that women don't undergo all those kind of shocks and syndromes,
Exactly.
I mean, there's no other way. We have to reach that point. And if we have to reach that point, we have to give them safe products. It could be, we also have to address the entire social issue that women should be able to wash it and dry it where there is sunlight and air. That's very, very important. Definitely reusability, cups or cloth or any other material. It has to be dried in good sunlight and air has to be there. That, so I don't know what we have to do about social taboo or whatever it is, but this has to be achieved. Similar way for disposable material, you have to have this, biodegradable pads. I mean, there's no other go. You have to reach that. Probably it will take you, all this, you will go over this incinerators and, Chota incinerator, Bada incinerator, all these incinerators. Ultimately, you will have to reach that because there is no other way. So, just like how the rules are evolving, but I'm extremely happy that, I would say, having worked in the waste management sector for 30 years, that, they say strength in numbers. I mean, I am really amazed at that. 30 years ago when we started, we never thought that we would ever convince the government or anybody for that matter in this kind of a thought, because segregation, one category, too difficult. Two categories, oh, impossible. Now three, cities doing three. Now we're thinking of four because toxic hazardous chemicals.
Doing 6.
Exactly. And I would say, horticultural waste in cities has got
huge.
so much of wood, so much of, which can be made into cellulose. I mean, if there are some good entrepreneurs, and now horticultural waste has been put as a category. And we have huge quantities. If you go to Talkatora Gardens, they have put up an equipment which is not really working very well. But it is trying to address woody parts of horticultural waste, which is ridiculous. I mean, why would you want to crush it and use so much of energy and try to make it into some compostable material? You can directly use it for making cellulose. So, I mean, this is my point of view, but I mean, sorry about that.
So actually taking off from your point, Dr. Mani, Myles, at RTI, you're also looking at waste to energy technologies. So are you looking at something similar to what Dr. Mani alluded to, or how is your model?
Question of disposal, of thinking about what's happening at public spaces where toilets are positioned or planned to be positioned. So thinking about community block toilets or schools or workplace sanitation solutions, and realizing that it may be a public health and environmental issue, but it's also an issue of privacy and dignity. And so trying to think holistically about the disposal question and how, particularly at a larger public space, how do you integrate a solution that might address all of those concerns. So as part of our work on the Reinvent the Toilet program, we've developed a waste treatment system for feces and for urine that is separating those byproducts, and for the solids we're drying and combusting them. So that got us into thinking about how can we also manage other waste streams that are happening at that public space. So menstrual waste, and trying to develop a safe and discrete space for disposal for those that wish to dispose of menstrual products on site, and then how might we integrate that into the system. So we now have a design of a system that will allow us to take the menstrual waste, to shred it, and you could also combine some other municipal waste in that waste stream, and create a pelletized fuel that could then be combusted. And we can do this in a fairly small size. Current prototype and thinking is about the size of an ATM, a bank ATM. And then you could capture from the combustion process some waste heat, and then you could store that in a battery to generate energy from that process.
So Dr. Mani alluded to the cost of course she's talking about large scale waste to resource, waste to energy technologies, but yours is more community based, and suitable even for institutions such as schools.
Right.
So you're looking at it at a much smaller scale. So what's the cost? I mean, I know you may not have the actual cost, but how expensive is this, and what does this mean if we want to actually roll it out?
Right. So we've tried to benchmark cost around some other competitor products in this space, in the incinerator space. So something about $150 is what you might find for a school-based electric incinerator. So we feel like we can produce a product that allows us to take that waste into, allows for the shredding on-site, allows for the development of a fuel pellet on-site, and then you could also combust it in a very small combustion chamber. And then you would have a pollution control filter on the emissions also on-site. So we feel like we can sort of meet that price point at the current thinking.
While taking care of some of the concerns around incinerators.
Right.
Okay, great. So at this point, I think that we'll open it up to the audience for questions before we come back to this panel and ask them for their final thoughts and some recommendations for moving forward. So questions from the audience.
Hi, good afternoon. So we're talking about waste management in like the urban landscape or in the rural landscape. Can we also discuss this in terms of the Indian railways? I mean, so many women travel across this entire country, and we've never really addressed how, their sanitary napkins are being disposed, and we're littering literally all over the tracks of the country. So if maybe something like this could, be incorporated, keeping, the Ministry of Railways in mind, and something that makes, like say a pink dustbin or something, so that mindset can then be, translated to, they get used to it, that idea that, pink dustbin is for disposable, for sanitary napkin disposal and something like that. So any comments on that?
Well, I think it's
sorry.
Go ahead.
What you're talking about a bin is very good idea. I think we have not really looked at that. But there are some experiments being done on using biocultures for toilets so that it doesn't litter along. But I don't think there's a lot of thoughts about menstrual waste. And this is a good suggestion on pink basket or pink dustbin is a good idea. But the thing is the collection. How do you do your operations has to be thought through. So how do you do this O&Ms are very important. But what I feel is, even if the collection happens, when you know the volumes, you can think of some alternatives. There is no need to rush for a solution on each train. Collection is the first thing we should do. And we have found in Bangalore, when we collect and aggregate, there is always a market for something or the other. Right. It comes out. So once you understand what is the volume, then we can talk about a solution. I think collection is what we should focus on.
Myles, you had a response as well.
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, and it is an area of some research that's going on, of looking at, again, these mobile, decentralized system. And again, as you rightly point out, the issue of segregation is the first step, right? But I think it can be done in a discrete way in a public place that would incentivize the disposal. And then I think you can create opportunities for managing that, maybe even turning it into energy.
Any other questions?
Can I just ask something here? I was just listening to all fellow panelists. I was wondering that on one side we are speaking about incinerating technologies and how cost-effective, environment-friendly models and designs are coming up. On the other side, the solid waste rules ask the producers and the manufacturers of sanitary waste to opt for recyclable products and go for 100% recyclable products. So why go for something which requires burning or sort of adding to the chaos in the market in terms of collection, transportation, segregation, when we can actually have just one industry focus on something which can be recycled and also maybe composted?
Yesterday morning that question came up again.
And we also alluded to it in the product discussion. So I'm not sure we have a clear-cut answer, but it's a direction that we
just something to
hope to.
It's something which can be sort of also pushed for. And because even if we talk of deep burial, for instance, in deep burial also it is said that it can only be opted for in remote areas, rural areas, remote areas, where there is no biomedical processing facility nearby. So again, a problem of land, whose land will it be, who will provide for it, because we have to see it from a legal standpoint. Otherwise, it will be a problem which Gramalaya is facing, that women have been trying to hide it, it's a lot of stigma and taboo is still there in our country.
No, I mean, in the case of the deep burial, I'd like to clarify, that is for biomedical waste. It is not to do... No. This has still been put under solid waste. Just now, the government has only said that you separate it, like you mark it and all that. And that's all they have been able to say is put it along with the non-biodegradable. That is the only reason is that they have only these two categories. But wherever where the third category is already being collected, like in Bangalore and all that, they have said that yes, it can be collected and then sent to the common biomedical waste facility operator. It's a facility which is outside the city and which is already defined in the biomedical waste rules. That's what it says. But like for instance, under Swachh Bharat or under MDWS or something, they have not really approached the government and asked them, what if we produce a totally biodegradable sanitary pad? What will you do in a rural area? They haven't asked, and the government has not put that in the rules. So it is neither biomedical waste, in which case it's, because it's not there in the biomedical waste rules. It is a solid waste, but there is no complete think through. They haven't asked that question that what if it is in the rural area and it is biodegradable? Because we have designed, not just digging a pit and burying it, not that type of a thing. We have designed proper pits, which are almost semi-constructed with proper lids and, fencing and how it has to be composted, almost like a proper composting process, with alum and things like that. So that is available. I mean, if whoever wants to design, especially if it's a completely degradable plastic, we have a complete design on how to do, composting through the burial system with proper design and how to be protected. That is available.
But we are yet to reach there.
I mean, in the sense that, we are yet to reach there.
Product. And affordable, which is affordable.
Yeah, which is, because, see, affordability also, for instance, one is of course, the fact that...
affordability to the masses, ma'am.
No, affordability, I agree, totally agree. But before even affordability, you need to find out what is the source of the material.
Content of the material.
Where are you going to make it from? Affordability comes from two things. One is what is the, the raw material, like I said, using various types of woody matter. Second thing is, of course, the cost of production and marketing and things like that. I'm just giving you an example. When we, just like she mentioned about Ministry of Railways, when they were using these plastic cups, we did write to the Ministry of Railways several times, and then they changed over to the paper cups. The same thing with the airlines, they changed over to the paper cup. But still the paper cup has a laminated
yes, it is laminated.
Yeah, but so today if you really see, in like if you go to Haldiram or some good eating joint, I'm not trying to promote Haldiram, please don't mistake me. But you have non-laminated paper, completely degradable paper plates in some of these places, where you don't have the hazard of all those chemicals which are carcinogenic, which are added to protect the lamination and things like that. So if if you
in sugar bagasse.
Yeah,
Lot of sugar bagasse is used in Bangalore.
That's what I'm saying. So what I mean to say is, if it was completely unaffordable, because in joints like this, I don't want to mention that same joint once again, lest I am accused of promoting. But you know what I mean to say is all these kind of joints, if they are able to afford, because different kinds of people come to it. Not the very well-to-do and also the medium, the class of people are coming. So if they are able to afford it, then it means that it is coming into the affordability. So more than anything else, we should not create any food, fodder, fuel debate. Because this is, that we have to be absolutely sure. In a country where we are having, carbohydrate malnutrition, we should not be using any millets or anything like this for making sanitary napkins. I'm definitely not for it. But there are, like wood waste and so many other things, which we can look at.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
As a matter of fact, we do that. I mean, we use fibers and combination to create a sheet which is used as a
my suggestion to you would also be that if you can look at replacing that polypropylene.
The top layer we have been.
And somehow, trust in the fact that you will be able to sell it to both the people, some kind of a cross subsidy kind of a thing if you can do it, in which case that you can maintain the affordability through a marketing mechanism.
Waste should be reusable and recyclable, and segregation and disposable at the household level, it's the best option for cheapest cost for the infrastructure. For example, these pads, it's made of exported the banyan cloth. It's a waste from belt.
Correct.
Yeah, so that is a waste piece from banyan cloth. So we made it from that. So that's why the cost is very cheaper to access. The people can afford that.
So if there are more questions from the audience.
Yeah, I think we got time for two questions before
and then we'll wrap up.
Close it out.
As you said, that segregation at the household level and segregation at source is the most important thing. While I agree with that, but coming from a locality in Vasant Kunj, here I started segregating my waste, and I asked the collector, what will you do with the waste once if I give you segregated degradable and non-biodegradable waste? He said, whatever way you give it to me in, I will take it together and everything goes together, and then the municipality will segregate it at the common grounds. And I'm sorry, even if you want to take responsibility, I can't take responsibility because that's not my duty. So how do you deal with problems like these when we can't actually segregate at source because the law doesn't sort of allow us to do it, or maybe the implementation is such that it becomes
it is a story of all cities. It's not very different. But you don't change your way of doing. You do your system and you start demanding that I need my collection to be taken separately. That is how in Bangalore it happened. Now, lot of people used to complain exactly what you are saying even about 4 months ago. But today nobody says. We say you have a problem, come, I'll teach you how to do composting. Every Sunday we have something called composting Sunday in the city. We go to different locality. Commissioner and mayor is there for every Sunday teaching people how to do composting. You complain, then we teach you how to do composting. There is dry waste collection center, please drop it off. So now suddenly people have realized that, the government has realized people are going to demand more and more. So they have started separate segregated system of collection. So system has to change. It's not the fault of the guy who picks up from you. The system is not changed, but you don't change your way of segregating. The other things you start demanding, it will happen.
I think now there's so many facilities also. Like for instance, if you want to compost, there are CSR people whom you can approach. You can approach the government itself, the Swachh Bharat. You know that you can buy yourself a khamba and start doing it in your house. You can start doing in your community. Earlier nothing was there. So
because they've increased that kind of an awareness in Bangalore.
Exactly.
There are a lot of social entrepreneurs, lot of products that you can do composting even at home or at your community level. So it will come. If we demand, it will come.
You can start with your RWA. Just approach them. Tell them that the waste pickers who are coming to collect from each household, give them a session on training on how to keep the waste segregated, do that. I mean, that's the easiest thing which you can do. I live in Vasant Kunj too. Please call me if you need any help.
I actually do. I use a khamba at home and I compost and I try to reach out to many households and I told them this is a good initiative, you know, maybe if 10 of us start then the RWA will listen to us. But they're like, madam, sorry, this is not our responsibility. You go here, you go there. And I'm just like, okay, so where do I actually go, you know? I'm sort of...
You should have seen Southex, there is a community which has been RWA, it has been doing composting for years. Beautifully they're doing in a common place, so it's possible.
We'll take one last
so
question from
difficult. People
Pratik.
who have gardens, everybody does it, and it's not that difficult. So,
Yeah, it's a tough one with very difficult answer. So my question was almost on fairly similar lines, like with Swachh Bharat mission, you know, and where everything else is happening, fecal plus manure seems to be taking the the biggest space out there. Where does menstrual disposal really lie? Are we banking on Swachh Bharat or what? I mean, where do we really position this? Again, considering that when it comes to who's the real stakeholder with health, education, women, child, urban development, rural development, there's so many stakeholders in the menstrual hygiene space. Where do we position disposal, considering that SBM is doing everything but this?
I want to take Pratik's comment, question, and actually ask all of you to actually reflect one consideration for waste management of menstrual waste, keeping this in mind. So just a sentence, keeping what Pratik has asked for, and also like one ask and one consideration for SPM, both urban and rural. Just one quick short sentence.
For children, for school children, that is a Swachh Bharat Vidyalaya, that is a scheme is called. It's a construction of a school toilet with incinerator facility. So there is a maintenance fund in the for school authorities. So they are doing lot in that menstrual waste.
So one consideration from Gramalaya for Swachh Bharat in terms of management of menstrual waste?
Management of menstrual waste at the source level, it is very better for the household.
Okay.
I too believe that menstrual waste, it should be disposed of where it is generated rather than collection and the further channel. Till menstrual cups become regular and acceptable in the society, or composting becomes acceptable in the society, low-cost incinerators, my experience tells me, is a better option for the young girls and women, because disposal can't happen so they can't use the pads is not the answer. Women do need clean, hygienic protection. It's high time they get that. So, as I said, till the time the systems are established, low-cost incinerators do work well. So.
Richa, any reflection?
Like I shared previously, my fear only revolves around monitoring low-cost incinerators. How do we make sure that they're environment friendly and not affecting the health of the people who are managing that machine or who are in the surrounding, in the nearby premises? But having said that, I am also aware that there are a lot of products in the market today which are good, not incinerator, the products I'm talking about, the products which are good, which are recyclable, compostable. So the government can as well come forward and provide them subsidies like the government does for other kinds of plants, bigger kind of products, huge markets. So I guess these products should also be given a push too. I think that can be one way of doing it.
Myles.
Well, I think menstruation is a natural bodily process, just like passing feces and urine. It needs to be part of Swachh Bharat. We have a solid waste crisis. We need to make it firmly part of Swachh. And I think we need to ask users and managers of those sites, as we design new sites, how we can best manage disposal.
So for me, disposal is a responsibility of the local body. So they will take the important role. In a city like Bangalore or any other city where there is a biomedical facility, I would just recommend that, even if it is at a cost of 24 rupees per kilo, because Bangalore, for example, has 800 crores for just solid waste management. budget, we produce only 30 to 35 tons of menstrual waste per day, and they very well can take care. Till such time that the producers of the products become responsible.
I would like to say that the Swachh Bharat mission is also giving you an information that on 5th of June, the World Environment Day, Swachh Bharat mission, the mission director has announced that we want to have the largest possible source segregation exercise in the world. They have announced that
Campaign on segregation.
Yeah, campaign, and they have the mission director has requested that as many of us can do this, and can send him information like holding hands or saying that we are doing this, some kind of evidence with photographs and all that, he would appreciate it and he looks forward to it. The second thing is, I would say that to have moved the gargantuan government towards this, I don't think it's a small achievement. I can tell you this one. Where there are people who are in two minds, who are still not sure whether mixed waste with energy generation and shall we do this, shall we do that, shall we capture some energy, shall we get some heat. No, the government seems to be absolutely clear. I mean, to get such a huge gargantuan government to agree on something like this is not a mean achievement. So it is really important. I would say that one major consideration I would have is, let's talk about it. We have already started speaking about it. If that's all it needs, that if for us, for young girls to be able to use clean material, to be able to wash it, to be able to dry it, to be able to use safe material, if that's all we need, that we need to talk about it, then let's talk about it. And the government is right behind you. I mean, you cannot get the government in a better position than this, because the government is really concerned. You would have seen hardly 2 days ago, there was a report by the Ministry of Environment that there are over 300 sites in India which are highly contaminated and with chromium and cadmium and lead levels huge. Government is extremely concerned because there are settlements on top of it and people are drinking groundwater from it. So they not only want sanitary waste to be addressed, they also want toxic hazardous waste to be addressed. And that's the reason why it's behind this in full force, source segregation. So if somehow we can communicate this to the general public, that today you cannot live without talking about waste, that you cannot go past a Dala without thinking that am I doing the right thing. So if we get there, then there's no issue.
If we should give more concentration on the production part, we don't bother about the disposal system. So that is.
So thank you to this fantastic panel for highlighting this critical issue. I hope this marks the beginning of future conversations. So just to very quickly sum up, I think that we have to think about a long-term solution for how we can encourage the safe, environmentally safe management of menstrual waste and other waste going forward. But for the here and now, we also have to come up with safe solutions for girls and women as to what they can do now. We have to think about how we can make products that are safe for girls and also safe for the environment, that are sustainable for use as we move forward. And I think that very important point, Myles, that you brought up is that let's listen to women and girls, the users of products, to see how they also want disposal and treatment solutions to be designed. So keeping all this in mind as we move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm not going to take very much of your time. I think I would urge you all that, in the pack that's been provided to you, on the three separate issues on normalizing, on looking at innovative approaches to normalizing menstruation, to look at the marketplace, a menstrual hygiene product landscape, and unpacking disposal. if you look at this, there's a call to action on each of these that has found way in those little booklets that are provided to you. And in some sense, that's going to guide us in the days ahead in terms of being able to work on that call to action that finds mention in those documents that have been shared with you. I'm just going to sort of share 2 or 3 quick issues before we move on. So there's been a lot of conversation today about the importance of choice. And I think it's important to recognize that not just has there been conversations about the importance of choice for those who require these solutions, but it's also, we've talked about the importance of understanding disaggregated choice. That for different people, you need to look at different, choice has very different aspects to it. I think it's also important for us to recognize that if we're talking about behavioral change, if you're looking at a disaggregated audience, behavioral change strategies are also going to vary. You can't look, you'll have to alter your strategy depending on whom you wish to have an impact on. And I think that's one of the key messages that's come up today, is the importance of recognizing disaggregated audiences, whether it's around behavioral change or in making products available to them. The other thing that I wish to sort of flag here is that we've identified several policy issues that we wish to take up with government. There's been talk about incentives, there's been talk about taxation, about looking at standards for products. I think it's important to also recognize in this country that not just do we have multiple departments that we have to deal with, I don't think we should lose sight of the fact that there's also a key role that state governments play. And in our emphasis on trying to look at change at the national level, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that there's a lot of potential for change by engaging with state governments. And so we should look at finding the right balance in engaging at the central level and at doing it at the state level. The last point that I wish to make is completely unrelated to pushing the boundaries on MHM dialogue. And I will end here. One of my pet peeves, particularly with the not-for-profit sector, has been our inherent inability to collaborate. And what this dialogue has actually done is demonstrated that we have a team of organizations and individuals who have actually pushed the bar in collaboration. And I'd wish to acknowledge the institutions that have been part of it, which have made this possible. RTI International, DASRA, PATH, WSSCC, Zaria, and Development Solutions. In particular, I'm going to call out some individuals without whom this event would not have been possible. And I'd be grateful if you all could stand. I'm not putting you on the spot, but I must acknowledge what you've done to make this possible. Vasudha from Development Solutions. Sushmita Ruchika from PATH. Sushmita, you can't be right at the end. Tanya from Zaria. Kamini Komal from WSSCC. Thank you. Zara, Pranasha and Krishna from Dasra. Arundati and Ankita from WaterAid. I'd also like to acknowledge the fact that there's been a very large number of others from the Dasra team who've been here, who've sort of quietly worked in the background to make this possible. So I'd like to end by thanking all of you. I also wish to thank all the panelists, the moderators, and all those who have been kind enough to stay back here today. Thank you.
A couple of quick things. Once again, thanks to everyone for coming and staying and really participating. I really think what Madhavan said in terms of this being a collaboration is key. We were able to get really good panelists, really good people working on it. Very quickly, change.org, for us to really move this forward. I've always said a single day means really nothing. So we've got to sort of see what we're going to do post this to really see our measure of success. So change.org's petition, we're going to circulate it to all of you. Please sign, share via Facebook, Twitter, share within your networks, because that will be the first step towards it. Secondly, I'm going to ask WSSC to do a pledge. But before that, I just want to end on one personal thing, since we are talking about adolescents and looking at the sector in general in terms of how do you want to make sure that you're involving men and boys in this discussion. I will say very importantly that one of my favorite quotes is always from Frederick Douglass, and he said, "It's far easier to raise strong boys than it is to fix broken men." So seriously, start early, have the dialogue for both people, and I'm sure we'll take this as far as we need to. And I'm going to leave it with that.
Hello, I hope by now everyone is wearing this bracelet. So this is the activity which we do at the end of our lab. So let's all stand up and make a pledge. It's a promise to each one of us that we'll start the dialogue about menstruation. So can we have this pledge? I will break the silence on menstruation. I will not feel shy. I will take pride. I will spread the word outside and inside the home. Thank you.